All right, let's set the scene. The smell of pizza wafts through the air. Dice clatter on the table, and everyone's deep into their characters, immersed in a world of fantasy and adventure. But despite the epic battles, cunning schemes, and heroic deeds, there's always that one moment where things take a turn for the absurd. Maybe it's a critical fail on a crucial roll, a ridiculous decision made in the heat of the moment, or just a hilariously mistimed joke that derails the entire quest. Whatever it is, it's bound to happen sooner or later. So, D&D Players, what was the last stupid thing to happen at your table? The party is myself, a bard, wizard, and a fighter. We're walking along a river when we get ambushed by human bandits. First round of rolls goes poorly and we get injured. Wizard and I take out a bandit, then retreat into the bushes to regroup. The fighter leaps into the river and begins swimming away. "Thanks a lot, Tank," says the wizard, who's now casting mage armor. Now alone against the bandits, the wizard and I manage to fight through maybe 20 rounds of combat without dying. Each time the fighter gets to his initiative order and says, "I keep swimming." After like 15 goddamn rounds, he asks, "Am I at the other side yet?" Somehow not noticing the annoyance of everyone else at the table. The DM says, "Not yet." Fighter replies, "Boy, that's a big river." Every game since that, we'd have some reference to big rivers, and it became a metaphor for crappy tanks. This is more my stupidity than any of my players. Every campaign I've ever run, I've included a single place that I call the Cavern of Knives. This came up as the result of me first discovering environmental traps back in 3.5, and tormenting my players with an entire linear hallway of them. Basically, it takes about 5 rounds to get from one end of the cavern to the other, and each round you have to roll an acrobatics check. If you fail, you fall and take 1d8 piercing damage, because you caught yourself on one of the sharp rocks. This repeats until you're through, and no one has ever come out of the cavern unharmed. I was running a combat scenario to get people used to how the combat flows in 5th edition. They were fighting a manticore. The rogue decided he wanted to try a sneak up on it way ahead of the rest of the group, and he rolled an @1 on his stealth roll. So the manticore just turned around and mauled him to death before the group even knew what had happened. It was pretty hilarious. I was playing a Tabaxi rogue in an Adventurers League session. One of my favorite characters to play as because it was low level and he only had a single non-negative stat, a +1 to dexterity. And I played the character as perpetually over their head, frightened and nonetheless prone to suicidal daring. One of these sessions was a dinosaur race. There were a lot of good memories in that session. It started with 2 chariots, including mine, failing to launch from the starting line. 3 rounds passed with both myself and the DM rolling terribly while the race continued. The DM might have fudged some stuff to let me catch up, but I did roll really high to get a burst of speed. Next thing I know, I'm in the air on a flying dinosaur. We weren't allowed to keep our weapons, of course, but nothing was actually stated about attacking other racers as being against the rules. So using my natural claws, I attacked the straps, keeping the players attached to their mounts. Since you apparently need every racing member of a team to cross the finish line at the end, I effectively eliminated 2 teams. Up until this point, the rest of the group was being rather murder hobo-y. This was the point where I just shrugged and embraced it. Not normally my style, though. Next was some underwater spelunking. You dive down, get some bricks or something, bring them up. Each piece brought up was a clue to the puzzle you had to solve before continuing. Well, I was already at the bottom when it occurred to me, wait a minute, a cat in water? It was as I was heading up that I wondered aloud how long someone can hold their breath with a -1 to constitution and a -2 to strength. The answer was that I was now drowning. Fortunately, another teammate was also in the water and could see me struggling. It was all followed by that wonderful image that every cat owner knows who has ever tried to bathe their pet. Of a soaked, frantic, gasping animal, claws scrabbling to pull him or herself away from the water. That frantic little creature that just wants nothing to do with what you're doing. But the really fun part was the final stretch, a Triceratops charge to the finish line, where the entire team was upon a single beast. There was only one team threatening us at this stage. We had the lead, but they ate into it until their dino was alongside of us. Once again, time for some suicidal daring, I decide to leap onto the enemy Triceratops. DM thinks I'm landing on its back. Oh no, I want to land on its face and just start raking away. Some fortunate rolls lets me land relatively safely, not immediately impaled. The gambit worked, and the dinosaur started to turn its head and slow down. Only having one chance to get back, I immediately try to turn and leap back before they start to separate. The DM says it's going to be very difficult, naturally. A high DC to make it back. I leap, roll a 19 for a total of 20. One of the other players says he's got a whip. He's going to try and extend it like a rope so I can catch it. He rolls a natural 1. I get whipped right in the face, mid-air. I take 6 damage. I'm unconscious. My limp form falls and hits the ground, taking 7 more damage. If I had a single point of damage more from either of those sources, I would have been outright killed. As it was, I was near death, automatically failed a death save, and now we didn't have a full team to win the race. They slow our tops, grab me, toss me onto its back, and quickly get back to the final stretch. By this point, our opponent has recovered, and we are now immediately neck to neck again. It all comes down to the wire, baby, and the player driving the beast saves the day with some pretty clutch rolls, and we just edge enough ahead to win. It wasn't a particularly cheerful victory from the audience. There was a particularly unhappy merchant claiming someone's aerial antics had wrecked his shop. I was out the whole award ceremony though, so I missed the whole darn thing. Our party is comprised of myself, a tiefling warlock bard, humanoid rights activist, a warlock who is unknowingly in a pact with Orcus, and our paladin who follows no god but his own willpower. This was a continuation of a previous campaign where we retrieved an idol for a Kuotoa village, and we were on our way to save a prince from a rich witch lich. We had found the witch lich's lair, an underground cavern filled with goblins making weapons, and we were sneaking through the tunnels on the way down. We emerged into a room with about 5 chests. I say, "I cast Detect Magic." He replies with, "You feel no magical presence here." So I shrug and open a chest. Surprise! The chest was a mimic. It and its other hiding mimic friend appear and attack us. I confront the DM at this point. "You said there's no magical aura. Mimics are magic. I should have sensed them." Well, I eventually shrugged it off and went back to playing. We entered a cavern full of bones. With my eagle eye, I saw a bone twitch. So I cast Detect Magic. Same result. All of a sudden, 3 bone nagas burst from the ground and attack us. Once again, I confront the DM. "You said there was no aura of magic. Bone nagas are magical creatures. Why didn't I detect them?" From then on, we learned that our DM did not know how Detect Magic works. As a joke, when someone would cast Detect Magic and came up with negative results, we would always look through everything, touching every single cup in the kitchen and looking at every single piece of silverware. It was great. Okay, not really sure if it's stupid per se, but nonetheless, an interesting story from the latest campaign that I was in. But first, a moment that had us definitely groan. After tracking down a monster that was terrorizing a nearby city for the last 2 sessions, we realized that the monster was too hard to take on by ourselves. So we came up with a plan to distract the monster by offering it the dead body of one of our fallen escorts, just in order to buy us some time so we could come back properly and prepare later to take care of it. Things actually turned out pretty well at first. The monster accepted our offer and allowed us to pass through. so we continued on our merry way. That was until the monster lurked out of the shadows in order to grab the offering at least. Our ranger took one look at the thing and impulsively decided, stupidly, to take a frickin' shot at it! All the time spent on planning how to avoid an encounter most of us were sure we couldn't win was ruined. But that's enough for the appetizer. On to the main dish. So after searching for a captured merchant who had hired us to escort his shipment of valuable goods that kept getting stolen, we found out that the one behind the attack was a drider, something absolutely none of us was even remotely equipped to deal with, who was planning on using the stolen goods to equip an army of servants to attack a nearby city for its own. Well, our solution to the situation, you might ask? Have the gnome bard disguise himself as a dragonborn, stand on the shoulder of the dwarven wizard while he cast levitate, and have him barge into the drider's chamber and declare that his master had laid claim to its lair, and unless it wanted to risk the attack of a very pissed off dragon, it better leave. Now, to our utter surprise, we actually managed to succeed in this, and we even managed to make a contract bound between the drider and our non-existent dragon master that stated that the drider would leave for some time while it prepared a pathway into the Underdark for the upcoming attack, during which time our dragon lord was allowed to lay sole ownership to the area. It was an utterly insane plan that nonetheless somehow ended up working. Yay for charisma rolls, I guess, and for great imagination, too. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and down in the comments below, you see down there in the comments? Yeah, those comments? Leave a comment letting us know what your recent stupid situation was, stupid story, or dumb moment was in a campaign. We love you all. See you next time. Toodaloo for now.